All right. So I made the video yesterday talking about Fyr'alath and my frustrations with it, and the game rewarded me apparently by giving it to me the same day. So I'm happy about that and relieved that the annoyance of not getting this thing is over, especially during a push week. But I kind of wanted to talk about how I did the entire quest line in about 5.5 hours. Which apparently I guess is pretty short comparatively to how some people do it. So I just want to talk about what I did and how to make it easier for yourself. But first and foremost, here's the VOD of me getting it. Gotta jump off the map. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
That was a good play.
Nice, thanks for wings.
Rallying cry in A.
Shadow flame breath.
I'm free!
No.
Yeah, and
Freedom!
Bunny too. It's Ass Bunny got one.
Huge.
Ass Bunny got a grats.
Freedom!
Wait, where's the bird sound?
Okay. That's me getting it. I was happy to get it. But now we need to talk about the quests of actually getting it. There is a couple different things to talk about. One of which is each of these quest lines that you have to do for your the pieces of the legendary, right? And the first one I'm going to talk about is this one, the Enchanting part. So for the first quest, it's going to ask you to go here. Actually, you end up, when you get the Fyr'alath quest, it's going to ask you to go here and talk to a guy in a tower here. After you talk to him, right next to him is a book of quests you have to pick up. It's like 3 different quests for each individual piece that you pick up and then tell you to go to different areas. So the first one is here in the Onaran Plains, and this is the Enchanting part. So you go to the guy, you talk to him, you get the quest, and then he wants you to do Radiant Flecks of Ash. This is essentially an item with 5-minute cooldown. What you can do is if you've already done this rep grind for the Dream Wardens, the Dream Wardens vendor has epic quality gloves that you can buy for like 500 garrison or like 500 resources. Dragon Isle supplies. So you can just buy a bunch of those and then you're totally fine. I had some pre-stocked, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But here's how you speedrun this step. You can speedrun this step in like, honestly, 15 to 20 minutes. But you might need to have the use of a garrison, because I don't know how else to get into the training grounds. So essentially what you do is you come here, you get this, it's got a 5-minute cooldown, and then you essentially just disenchant pieces of armor to get 20 of these Radiant Flecks of Ash. Where was I in the... Sorry, I'm looking for... I should have had this time up already. No, look here. So, here's how this works. I went into my garrison. See, I went to the I went into the mop area and couldn't find it. So, I went to my garrison, because apparently the garrison teleporters. I also read something that said the warrior trainers let you go into the training grounds, but they don't. So, I went to my garrison and talked to the guy at the table, and I went to the proving grounds. So, here's how it works. These items that you get, these 5-minute cooldown items, actually, every single time you start, so every single time you start a trial here, the cooldown will reset itself, right? So you go into your garrison, you go in here, you do this, and it resets your cooldown for this. So you just start the trial. I was trying to figure out how to do it. But you start the trial. No, talk to the guy, dumbass. You start the trial, and then you saw here that my item reset its cooldown. After that, you talk to him again, you say, I yield, and then you redo it, so you just reset the cooldown over and over again. That is how you're basically going to be speedrunning this step, this entire step, because you can do the same thing with this. And then the next step, which is you get the item crafted, right? And then you go back to him, and then he gives you another thing that has a 5-minute cooldown. What this item does is essentially you go through and you have to do this 20 times. So normally this would take 5 times 20 divided by 60. This would take about 80 minutes, so a little over an hour and a half. Or it would take about, I think it's like 80 minutes, hour and a half, somewhere like that, to do this step while waiting that 5-minute cooldown every time. But once again, going back into the training ground, you can just do this step repeatedly. What the step is it says, hey, you attempt to enchant Fyr'alath Vellum. The enchantment will not work, but might help concentrate the order magic to a usable state. All you really do is you go to the... After you've crafted... Because it does take a decent amount of items to craft these things. But what I did to make these 2 steps simple is I already had these awakened... You need air, earth, fire, and frost. I just bought 100 of each, and then just sat, once again, in the proving grounds, constantly resetting the cooldown, because it's RNG whether or not you get one of those elements to do this step. And that's this entire step, right? So after that, we have the Rune of Shadow Binding. First step, go here, talk to the guy. And then what he wants you to do is get taut tether coil. And you can get 1 to 3 of these. And what you have to do is you have to essentially tether yourself to a rare mob in the Emerald Dream. And you will get a kill record. And you will get 1 to 3 taut tether coils. And I thought this was going to take forever. But interestingly enough, in the Emerald Dream, I might as well just go over there to see if one's happening right now. I don't think there is, but on the off chance, having visual aid is nice. Oh, nice, there is, actually. So this event, the Emerald Frenzy, I don't know the exact timer of it, but it always seems to start before a Super Bloom. I think there's like one between them, and then there's like one after the Super Bloom, and then there's one right before it, I think. But this event, when you kill enough mobs in this event area, it spawns a big flower. And you can tether to that flower with the Tether Coil Rune, kill it, and then go farm more mobs. You spawn another one, you do the same thing. You spawn another one, you do the same thing. And while this isn't up, I just flew around the area with a rare scanner add-on, killing rares, doing what I could. Also, at the end of the Super Bloom event, the boss mob that you fight, if you're able to stay out of combat with the event going on, you can actually tether that boss as well to get more tether coil. But this event here is what really carried me, essentially, and it was the second shortest step. The longest step is the Tattered Dreamleaf step. So, once again, go to the Emerald Frenzies, hard farm mobs. If you can make a group finder for it, since you can be in a raid group to still get credit for this. Just make sure you're out of combat, you tether to the mob, and then you attack it, whatever. One thing I found was really weird is if I tethered to a mob, like if I opened my bags, and then click the item and tethered to the mob, and then hit escape, the escape would break the tether for some reason, and I don't know why. It's like a pseudo channel. So make sure you're not hitting escape, otherwise you'll break that tether, and it could be a problem. Or you won't get the reward for it. After that, you have it asks you to make the rune, which you can just ask for a crafter, a scribe. These runes don't have any quality attributed to them, so you can just have any crafter of that craft make it. One thing as well, as it says quality, low quality cosmic ink, the quality does not matter. Of these, just buy whatever's cheapest, whatever rank is cheapest for all of these steps when you're crafting these. And then for the last step, it says defeat Gnarlroot while Shadowbound, Igira, and Volacross. Here I was doing that step here. So you'll see this tether bind to you, and it will essentially just slows you. Supposedly, there's some issues with it where if you target a different mob, that you will actually break the tether. I feel like they probably hotfixed that, so it hasn't really happened. But I just joined. You can either try LFR. I tried to do LFR, which is why you see I have the cooldown here. But obviously, a lot of other people on Tuesday are doing the LFR, the exact same thing. So when I joined the LFR, the first 2 bosses that I needed were already dead. So I just joined a normal. Just joined a normal pug. Fresh normal pug. Heroic normal if you want. But I just joined a normal pug and then got this done really quick. Didn't take too long. One thing that is weird is when the boss... So one thing that is weird is when the boss does this soak where it goes underneath, your tether's actually going to disappear. And I was like, I was very upset and worried about it. So you see, he goes underneath to do the ability, and all of our tethers disappear, but they're technically just going underground. So don't worry about that. It freaked me out. I was like, ooh. But that's that step. It doesn't take too long if you can just find a quick group for it. So one thing you should do as well is the longest step is going to be this one with the Super Bloom. The Super Bloom step takes the longest. Going into the first Super Bloom, I had a Restored Dreamleaf already from helping other people. So we just had an extra one, so I kept it and then used it on myself. So if you haven't gotten these Tattered Dreamleafs, you can actually, once you get them, you can use them once on yourself, and then anyone who hasn't done the quest. The way I had other people help me is I just joined random Super Bloom pugs and then walked around and tried to use this item on other people. If other people have done this quest already, they can't do it again. So I would go around and it would say invalid target, whatever, if they've already done the quest. But once I found somebody in my raid group that hadn't done it yet, I would do this because it starts a channel. I would stop the channel and I would whisper them. I'd be like, hey, can you help me out with the legendary quest line? I'm doing this. All you have to do for the Super Bloom quest line is they just need to open the bags like normal and then kill the last boss. So if you get all 8,000 with the purple bag and you kill the last boss, completes the quest for them. After the quest is complete, they need to rejoin your party afterwards. You then go here into the Onaran Plains and you go back to the guy that gave you the quest here in the first place. Right over here. And then they'll turn it in. They'll get this item, the Restored Dreamleaf. They'll use it on you. I only needed to get up to 3 on me before I was getting a ton per Super Bloom, and then it wasn't a problem. But of these steps, the Super Bloom takes the longest because it's gated by these buffs. It is possible, if for some reason you did your first Super Bloom and you have multiple of these, it is possible for you to use these on multiple people and get multiple buffs because the quest is from them. And the other thing to note about the Super Bloom is the weekly Super Bloom event that you get the Trove, the reward box for the weekly quest, does also contain these Shadow Dream Leaves that you need for this quest. So don't do this quest before you have a chance of getting the legendary, otherwise you could set yourself back maybe an hour or more, potentially, depending on how many Super Blooms you have to do, because it is a variation of how many you get. So I would 100% make the Super Blooms your highest priority if you're choosing between doing like raid stuff or the enchanting stuff or the Super Bloom stuff. Do the Super Bloom stuff first. It takes the longest. And if you have people that can help you, they have to be the same faction to get these these Restored Dreamleaf buffs. You can make it last as quick or as little. I think it took me... It took me about 5 Super Blooms. Because I had these buffs, I had the one buff going into the Super Bloom. The second Super Bloom, I didn't get a buff. The third Super Bloom, I got another leaf. The fourth Super Bloom, I got my third buff. And then the fifth one, I finished my leaves. So it took me 5 hours in total for this step, but I already had one leaf going into it. And I did whisper and try to figure out and have people help me get it done. But like I said, the easiest way is get into a raid group that's just doing the Super Bloom already, and then just have the leaf once you get it, and just right-click people. See how it says invalid target for that guy? It'll say invalid target because he's already done the quest. So this guy where it says target is not in your party, that means he's valid to do it, but he can't. So that would be like, hey man, you could whisper and be like, hey man, can you help me with this, right? But this is the hardest time gate in the entire thing. So after you get the grip, now it wants you to test it. There is a so for players who are purely solo, don't want to talk to other people, don't want to deal with other people, there is this adaptive cooling salve step, which all this is essentially makes this step soloable. Because what happens is you have this attempt to bind the symbiotic glowspore grip to Fyr'alath, taking between 10 to 25% of your max health as Shadow Flame damage. As warriors, you can actually be in defensive stance the whole time while you're taking this channel damage, and it reduces the amount of damage you take. You can also use Enrage Regeneration during the channel, so you can take less damage there. But realistically, you don't need to do this adaptive cooling salve step. This is just for people who want to solo it. Just get a healer friend, or I literally whispered a healer and just paid them 10k to heal me. It'll take 10 attempts to go through here to finish out the attunement process for this. But just be in Valdraken, find a healer, whisper them. I paid some guy 10k to help me out for his time. And then that finishes off that step. And then now you are to the final step, which is you do this handling step. So after you get all of the pieces here, every time you complete one of these side quests, you'll be given an item that when you use it, attunes to you and turns into a legendary item. You then bring it back here in the Thaldraszus area. He then asks you to head to the Obsidian Citadel. You go over here to the Obsidian Citadel, and then you craft it. Craft it over here with Rathian, and then Rathian takes you into the Power of Temptation, which is the final quest here. And then in the quest, I don't want to show it, because it is pretty cool, honestly. It is kind of cool. There's an entire unique little scenario that you do, so I don't want to show that. But in that event, essentially, you have to kill mobs. All the casts that the mobs are doing can be kicked. So just make sure those get kicked. And then you'll have to go through a stage or two of dealing with the scenario. Mine randomly reset for some reason. Maybe I got too far away from him. I don't really know why. But even if it resets, you just start it up again. Not that big of a deal. It's not too hard. It's pretty easy, especially if you've got decent gear. And you'll have your legendary. It took me, once again, like I said, because I got it about here, right? But then we did another AOTC clear after, so I only really started it at about 2 hours in, and then I finished it. Around here, so it only took me about 5.5 hours total to get it done. But yeah, if you definitely have friends that can help you, and you get multiple leaves on your first Super Bloom, that is the biggest thing you can get, because I got 1 leaf from the event, and then I got 1 leaf from the weekly box, like the weekly Super Bloom box. So that's going to be your biggest time gate, and that's what you should make sure you do not miss. I only had to go up to 3 buffs to get everything done, but now I have these leaves for other people. So once my last guildmate or main roster raider gets his one, we can expedite this process like crazy fast for him. Because you can give these leaves to other people. I even have them after I'm done with the entire quest line. So that's it. That's how I got Fyr'alath in 5.5 hours. I'm happy to get it. I need to do testing with it. I finally have it. But it's still, like the previous video, it feels weird where I was excited to get it, but I'm feeling more of a feeling of relief than I am excitement for getting this item at this point. And there's other people, like, I think Crit Cake, actually, he tried again, and he didn't get the legendary again. And Crit Cake is a crazy good player, and unfortunately, didn't fucking get it this week. And it's a push week this week, and that really sucks. And I really hope he gets it soon. But other than that, that's how you do the entire quest line. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I kind of explained, kind of showed through like I said, the enchanting one completely negated by using the testing grounds. Make sure you're focused on the Shadow Dreamleaf one more than anything else. That is the most difficult one. Honestly, I would even try and join Super Bloom groups early, so you can just find somebody and have them help you and have time to whisper them and get it set up before the Super Bloom happens. You can even set up your own group. It is just the hardest part. And then it's gone. It's not showing here, but like I showed here with the Emerald Frenzy event, you can essentially perma-spawn rares. And if you have other people helping you, you just kill mobs around the area, spawn the rare, use the item to tether to it, and then that makes that step not take nearly as long as I thought it was going to. So yeah, that's how I got it in 5.5 hours, and I hope it helps you guys get yours. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Peace.